state. It was the static state hard drive that evidence yesterday. Judge, this is subject to defense motion limiting 12, DMIL 12, as its contents of surveillance footage from the school. Judge, once again, it's the same argument that the court has, that the same court that the court has to make whether or not it contains probative evidence that's not outweighed by the prejudicial nature against Mr. Cruz. Judge, there were witnesses yesterday that were able to testify relevantly and completely without the aid of the surveillance footage. Therefore, Judge, the defense admits that it's not necessary, and its prejudicial nature is overwhelmingly obvious to Mr. Cruz. Judge, we would cite to Mr. Cruz's due process rights in the Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, the United States Constitution, Amendments 5 and 14, Mr. Cruz's right to a fair trial in the Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 19, the U.S. Constitution, Amendments 6 and 14, the right to an impartial jury, Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 16, Amendments 6 and 14 of the United States Constitution, Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 16, Amendments 6 and 14 of the United States Constitution, Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 17, Amendments 8 and 14 of the United States Constitution, and Article 1, Section 2 of Florida Constitution's right to equal protection.
How does a video, explain to me how a video of the actual incident depicting what happened violates his constitutional rights?
Judge, what we're saying is that
It's not, there's not music in the background, it's not been edited, it's an actual depiction of the incident that happened.
Judge, and what we're saying is that the testimony that's provided by witnesses, the guilt's already been established, right? Mr. Cruz has already pled guilty to 17 counts of first-degree murder and 17 counts of attempted first-degree murder. Guilt is no longer an issue. The issue is whether or not it's probative to an aggravator, to prove an aggravator, or probative to disprove a mitigating factor. And again, the testimony that we had yesterday from the two students that were there, Daniel Gilbert and Dylan Kramer, was obviously very impactful, and they were able to express what was happening without any of the surveillance footage. And we would submit that the rest of the witnesses in this case, Judge, are able to do the same thing. So but the court has to ask itself whether or not this has any probative value to prove the material fact. But we submit that it doesn't.
Judge, first of all, I'm sorry, did you finish?
Yes.
Judge, first of all, this is not a contemporaneous objection, so it has been waived. But even if it hadn't been waived, these videos depict aggravating factors. The murders of each of the people who were killed is an aggravating factor for the other murders. So that alone allows its admissibility. And it also establishes many other of the aggravating factors, such as heinous, atrocious, and cruel, cold calculating, premeditated, and great risk of harm to others, disruption of a governmental function, killing public officials. All of those are depicted on the video. Thank you.
Judge, if I could just respond very quickly.
Okay.
As I said to in the motion limiting that was filed earlier this month, again, DMIL 12, we cite to this case, Old Chief versus United States. It's a Supreme Court case from 1997. It's found at 519 U.S. 172. And it states, if an alternative is found to have substantially the same or greater probative value, but a lower danger of unfair prejudice, sound judicial discretion would discount the value of the item first offered and exclude it if its discounted probative value were substantially outweighed by unfairly prejudicial risk. And that's at 182 and 183.
Okay, I think the surveillance videos are absolutely relevant and probative. I don't think that there's a limit on the amount of evidence that the state can present as far as proving these aggravating factors. And an actual video depicting the shooting that happened, in the manner in which it happened, from all of the different angles, is certainly probative to the aggravating factors, and I do not find that there's any unfair prejudice to the defendant, and that if there is any unfair prejudice, the probative value greatly outweighs the unfair prejudice. So respectfully, I'm denying your motion in limine.
Judge, is that across the board? Because that's the DMIL 12 is pretty all-encompassing in terms of photographs also.
Judge, I don't know what that comment meant. He just directed his objection to 18 in evidence, the hard drive.
The hard drive is the surveillance videos?
Yeah, the hard drive that came in as a 6-hour video. This isn't the video that we're showing to the jury because it's, in essence, raw video.
Right.
The next witness is going to, we hope to introduce the video clips that are relevant to the time period.
And those are the ones, I believe, Mr. Wheeler, that were given to me in advance that I was able to view. The clips of the surveillance videos.
Yes, ma'am.
So, are you you're asking me whether or not my ruling goes to all of the surveillance video clips?
Judge, what the court just stated on the record is that it was denying DMIL 12, but DMIL 12 is not just the surveillance footage that's currently the subject of the issue. It also encompasses autopsy photos, photographs.
Okay, I don't think we're there yet.
Right.
Because the state hasn't called a witness to show relevancy to those issues. So my ruling goes solely to the surveillance clips.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, we ready to bring in the jury?
Yes, Judge.
Let's bring in the jury, please. Thank you.
There is an answering.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see you all today. Everyone else may be seated. And state, call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Ron Luther.
Good morning. Please remain standing for each one.
Good morning, sir. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. You can put your hand down and be seated. And when you're seated, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Ron Lowther, and it's Lowther.
And you state your name prior.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Raffa, good morning.
Good morning.
What is your occupation, sir?
I work for the Broward Sheriff's Office in the Covert Electronic Surveillance Unit, and I'm electronic surveillance technician.
Okay. And what do your duties entail?
What I do is retrieve and process video evidence.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for the last 24 years.
Okay. And what training have you had?
Most of my training's been informal, but I have received training with the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, and the trainings that I've received were the video evidence retrieval program and also cyber investigations.
Okay. And what is your experience? I mean, what are the things that you have done with your
Well,
training?
my background is in film and television production for the last 36 years. I've been a producer and director of photography in film and television.
Okay. And when with the sheriff's office, you explain exactly what you mean by retrieval.
So when there's a crime that happens that involves any kind of video surveillance, I am asked by investigators to retrieve whatever video evidence from DVRs and servers or any devices that contain video.
Okay. And what are some of the things that you can do once you retrieve a video?
Well, I then would bring it back to the office and process the video. I would, whatever the detectives ask of me as far as what they're looking for, I would put together presentations for them to do with court. I would clarify any videos that are difficult to see or difficult to play back.
Okay. And how many times during your career, Mr. Lothar, have you done that?
Oh, over 1,000 times, probably.
Okay. With reference to this case, I want to show you State's Exhibit number 18 that has been introduced into evidence. Mr. Lothar, would you examine that, please, sir?
Yeah, solid state hard drive.
Okay. And have you seen that before?
Yes, I have.
And when's the first time, how did you get it?
I received it from the FBI, from a fellow by the name of Gaston.
Okay. And once you received it, what did you do with it?
I had derived some videos from the video files that are on here.
Okay. And when those video files are on there, explain exactly what is on there.
Well, there are files that were derived from a server, apparently, and
Go ahead.
there's player software with that, so you're able to view the files.
Okay. Let me show you State's Exhibit marked V for identification, Mr. Lothar, and ask you if you can identify this, sir.
Yeah,
Mr. Sets, what the?
It's V for
Oh,
identification.
D, okay, thank you.
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
this is a flash drive that I had put some video clips on.
Okay. And when you took State's Exhibit 18 that's been introduced in evidence, what did you do with it to put it on that flash drive? What is the difference between what's on the State's Exhibit 18 and your flash drive?
Well, I copied video files from the hard drive, and from those I was able to produce videos that were, actually I put it in a format to be able to view the videos easily and clearly.
Okay. In doing so, were you able to link cameras, for instance, as you probably know from viewing, there are 13 cameras in the 1200 building, right?
Correct.
Were you able to link a person from going camera to camera?
Yes. So
Go ahead.
what I did was I was able to put together a sequence that to follow the subject from camera to camera in a linear time frame continuously.
Okay. And could you do that for people other than the suspect, or the subject, people that were in the 1200 building?
Yes.
Individual, what we call clips. Were you able to do that?
Yes, I was able to create clips of other individuals.
Okay. And how many individual clips did you make from that 6-hour State's Exhibit 18?
I believe in total there were 22.
Okay. Of different people?
Of different people.
Okay. And were you able to highlight the different people?
Yes, there were some subjects that I had to highlight.
Okay. So and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if there's a group of people in a group, were you able to isolate them?
Yes. So I had whatever the subject was that I was trying to focus in on, I would put a circle around them, a graphic circle, and follow them. That way you'd be able to follow them because there's so much activity going on in those frames that it isolates that one person to focus your attention to.
Okay. And you were able to distinguish different people in the groups?
Correct.
To follow?
Through that, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd like to offer State's Exhibit B.
Judge, objection?
Okay. States V, like Victor for identification, will be received as States 19.
Your Honor, at this time I'd like to play one of the clips.
Okay. Is this material that needs to be
Yes, it's
just for the jury?
just for the jury and defense.
So, do we need anything other than that partition?
This is video, so
Right, so, okay.
what do you call them? My memory is going. The monitors, they're off, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. There are several clips on here, Jan, but for evidentiary purposes, we're just going to play the one of the suspect in this case.
Okay.
Okay. You have that, Aaron? Or you need it? Give it to you. Your Honor, I have no further questions of this witness at this time.
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Can I ask one more question about what you said? Was there any sound?
No, no sound.
Mr. Wheeler, anything based on that last question?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
State when you're ready, call your next
Oh,
witness.
I'm sorry. Dan Booth?
So please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You can put your hand down and please be seated. When you're seated, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Daniel James Booth, B-O-O-T-H.
Thank you. State your name, inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Booth, what do you do for a living?
I'm a software engineer at Avigilon.
Okay, and what is a Vigilon?
Avigilon's a company that makes security cameras and video recording systems.
And where are they located?
Vancouver, Canada.
Okay. And how long have you been employed there?
About 6.5 years.
Okay. And what is your training?
So I've worked in the software industry for a number of years. I did some of a degree in the field.
Okay. And where have you worked prior to a Vigilon?
Avigilon's the only official employment I had. I worked as a consultant before that.
Okay. What exactly are your duties?
So I write software for our video recording systems, and I provide guidance to more junior members of our team about design of the software and systems.
Okay. And your experience with software systems, what do you do with it?
Pardon me?
What are your duties? You describe your title. What do you actually do?
So I write code, and I design the software architecture. So I'm sometimes called a software architect.
Okay. And does Avigilon, where do they provide their products?
They provide their products worldwide.
Pardon?
They provide them worldwide.
Worldwide. Okay. You familiar with Avigilon doing the software system back in February of 2018 at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School?
I am, yes.
Okay. And let me show you State's Exhibit marked U for identification that has been done by Gaston Nevis of the FBI. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Yes, I have. This was sent to me last year in
Okay.
Vancouver.
And what did you do with that?
So there's a copy of the video data for the date in question for the school surveillance system.
Okay. And you looked at it?
I looked at it, yeah.
And what were you doing when you were looking at it? What were you doing?
I was validating that everything is as it should be, that the system was functioning as designed.
Okay. And what was your determination?
Everything was operating as usual.
Okay. And did you compare the extracted data to the raw data?
Yeah, so there was a copy of the raw data from the server and a copy of the extracted data that would be used to produce clips and so on. And I compared the two, and they were the same.
Okay. And you watched the video?
I did, yeah.
The substance is coming down from the ceilings. Did you observe that?
Yes, I did.
What effect, if any, does that have on the system that existed at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School on February the 14th, 2018?
Well, the way the system was configured, it would record when motion is detected from a camera. When that dust came down, it obscured the motion of a person who's sort of deep, far in the scene, and no motion is no longer detected. And so there are gaps in recording because no motion is detected.
Okay. And what happens after that? Does the camera refocus and come on again when the camera detects motion?
Yeah, when motion is detected, it begins recording again.
Okay. So that would explain the skips?
That would explain the skips.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Booth. Your Honor, I have no further questions from Mr. Booth.
Any questions?
No, Judge, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Oh, yeah, what? Yeah, I wanted to move that into evidence. States of you.
Is there any objection?
Just go move.
Sure.
Just, we would rely on our previous objections. Thank you.
Okay, over the defense objection states U for identification will be received as states 20. State, call your next witness.
Christopher McKenna.
Good morning. Just remain standing.
Good morning. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down and be seated. And when you're seated, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Christopher McKenna, McKenna.
Thank you. You may inquire, state.
Mr. McKenna, what do? Do you go to school? Do you work?
I am a second-year student in college.
And where do you go to college?
I go to Gardner-Webb University.
Okay. Where did you go to high school?
I went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and I graduated in 2021.
Okay. And did you go all 4 years to
All 4 years.
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School? I'd like to call your attention, Mr. McKenna, to February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that date?
Yes, sir.
And what year were you in on that date?
I was a freshman.
Okay. On that date, on Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018, fourth period. Do you remember where you were?
Yes, I was in room 1216 in English class with Miss Haas.
Miss Haas?
Miss Haas.
Okay. Okay. And what happened during fourth period?
During fourth period, it was a normal day at the beginning. Around 2:21, I asked to go to the bathroom. Raised my hand, got the bathroom pass and everything. And I walked out of the classroom, made a left past room 1217, I believe it was, or 1218, both of them. And I saw Martin and Luke, and I high-fived Martin. And I walked by him like it was normal, walked into the staircase, and I walked into a man. He was wearing a maroon shirt with a JROTC shirt with a backpack and a hat on. Black pants, he had a rifle in his hands. I was stunned for 1 second. And he said to me, "Get out of here. Things are about to get bad." And I walked through the double doors. I sprinted as fast as I can. I was in the room, in the staircase for about 7 seconds. And I ran out and I ran to the north side gates, it was called their senior lot. And I ran into Coach Feiss. Coach Feiss was unlocking the senior gates, as he normally does with around 20 minutes left of school. And he told me to be calm and get into his golf cart. So I got into his golf cart. He dropped me off in the 1300 building, which was the building adjacent to the freshman building. And he took me in the back there, and then that's when I heard the fire alarm go off when I was standing right in front. And I was hearing shots, and
You were still hearing shots?
I was as he was
Where
bringing me
were
to the
you
door.
when you heard the shots, Mr. McKenna?
I was in the golf cart driving over to the 1300 building.
Okay. And Coach Aaron Feiss was
Yes.
driving the golf cart?
Yes.
Okay. And then what happened?
And then he told me he's going to go check it out. So I waited there, and then I started hearing shots, and all the students in the 1300 building started running out. So I started running with them. And I just ran all the way through West Glades, which is the school adjacent to our school, and through West Glades into Walmart, which is also next to West Glades.
Okay. And then what happened?
And then from there, I ran all the way over to one of my friend's house, and he lived across the street. I was calling my dad. My dad he works for law enforcement at the time. And
Okay. Everything?
that was about everything.
Okay. All right. I want to show you State's Exhibit Mark A that's been introduced into evidence. And can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's an illustrator. Do you know what I mean by that? Ian, can you put that up on the screen for him? Do you see what?
It's not up yet.
Sorry.
It's not up yet. Okay, now it's up.
Okay. So would you indicate where you ran out? And you said you ran out.
I ran out right around here
Okay.
at that door.
Okay. And where did you run to?
I ran along here, over to here, and then Coach Feiss was unlocking the gate that's right around here.
Okay. And then where did he take you?
He took me into his golf cart, which was sitting here, there's a doorway over here, behind that little alcove.
Okay. And when you said you bumped fist, it was with Martin and Luke. It's Martin Duque Aquilano and
Yes.
Luke Hoyer?
Luke Hoyer.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, we'd like to play the snip that involves Mr. McKenna.
Okay, and this is something that should only be
No,
viewed
should
by
not be shown.
should only be viewed by the jury.
Yes,
Okay.
and defense. Is that you in the yellow circle?
Yes, sir.
Is that you and Coach Feiss?
Yes, sir.
Is that accurate and true that it happened on February the 14th,
Yes, sir.
2018? Mr. McKenna, if you saw the person that was in the stairwell with you, would you be able to identify him?
Yes, sir.
You see him in the courtroom today?
I do.
Which person you point to?
The one with glasses on.
Okay, sitting next to Mr. Wheeler?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, with the court's permission, can the record reflect that Mr. McKenna has identified the defendant, Nikolas Cruz, please?
Record will so reflect.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Defense, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.
State whenever you're ready, you may call your next witness.
William Olson.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a very short recess so that you all can, we're going to take a very short recess for 5 minutes. Whenever you all are ready, please let the bailiff know so that we can bring you back in here. But for now, please do not discuss the case. Remember the rules. You can't start deliberating. You can't discuss anything that goes on in here. And we'll be back with you shortly. Thank you so much. Lawyers, we're going to just take our morning break early. One of the jurors needed to use the restroom, so we may as well take our morning break now for 15 minutes.
Okay.
So we're in recess for 15 minutes. Thank you. Here's the snacks.
To call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
I'd like to call your attention to the fourth period. Do you remember where you were on the fourth period on that day?
Yes.
Where were you?
Miss Haas's classroom.
And what classroom was that?
1216.
Okay. Here, I'm just going to put this up real quick. Can you see that on your screen?
No.
Can
Yes.
you? It's kind of blurry.
It's a bit blurry.
Yeah. Ian, you know why it's blurry?
Do you want him to help you?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ian. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. It'll come up. I'd like you to just put a little circle where you were.
Just point to it, or
Can you
yeah, I see.
use the... That's it. Okay. Okay, great. All right, so fourth period, Mr. Olson, tell us what happened.
Well, we were sitting in a group that day. We were doing something like an essay or activity like that. And all of a sudden, I heard a bunch of loud noises in the hallway. I did not know what it was. And after a few seconds, I think everyone realized it was gunshots. And then I look over and I see Alex not moving. And then my memories...
You talk about Alex Schachter?
Yes. And then, I guess a few seconds, I don't know, goes by, and then I'm on the floor in front of the teacher's desk, waiting. And then eventually, Kashava comes in. I'm with him in front of the teacher's desk.
Is that Kashava Magapuram?
Yes.
Okay.
While I'm laying in front of the desk, I realize there's blood all over me. I don't know. There's blood all over Kashava. I don't know I don't really still realize what's going on. And I can hear the shots still, and I hear them get farther away, and I guess eventually go to other floors. It gets a little quieter, but eventually there's more loud noises, and it's the police coming to, I guess, escort us out. And once we're out of the school, I go wait at an ambulance station, medic station, for a minute. But then I realize I see someone I know, someone's mom that I know. So I go to her and call my mom, and then my mom picks me up from there, and we drive to the hospital.
Okay. So let me take you back in school, in classroom 1216. So you say you hear some shots?
Yes.
And so what do you do exactly?
Well, I'm kind of waiting in my seat for a bit because I didn't understand what was going on at the time. I just remember looking over at Alex first, and then I don't really remember how I got onto the floor from there, but I realized I was on the floor after.
When you looked over at Alex, what did you see?
He was not moving, maybe twitching a bit, but...
Okay. And then what did you do?
I ended up on the floor in front of the teacher's desk. I don't know how I got there, I just was there.
Okay. Were you wounded?
Yes.
When did you get wounded?
I don't know, but I realized I was wounded when I was laying in front of the teacher's desk.
Okay. Did you see anyone else get shot?
Not get shot, but injured.
Who'd you see injured?
Kashava.
Okay. And then what happened after that?
Kashava and I were waiting in front of the teacher's desk for, I don't know how long, forever. And yeah, it's...
Okay. Did you see, where did the shots come from? Did you see where the shots come from?
No, I didn't see where they came from.
Okay. Do you know how many shots were fired into your wound?
No, a lot.
Okay. Was it one time or more than one time?
More than one.
Okay. How long before the first time and the second time, if you can remember?
I don't really remember how much time.
Pardon?
I don't remember how much time in between.
Okay. Would the first shots came in and compared to the second shots, same amount of shots come in, or more the first time or more the second time, if you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. I'm going to show you states exhibits more. 2M, 2L, 2Q, and 2O. Mr. Olson, you can take a look at these, okay? Do you recognize who that is?
Yes.
Who is that?
Me.
Okay. Did those four photographs truly and accurately depict your wounds that you received on February 14, 2018?
Yes.
Are they accurate?
Yes.
And where were they taken?
West Boca Hospital.
West Boca Hospital?
Yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, I've shown these to the defense. I'm going to introduce them. Just a brief sidebar.
Over the defense objection, 2M will be received as states 21. 2L. Okay, please take it on. 2L will be received as states 22. 2Q for identification will be received as states 23. And 2O will be received as states 24.
Thank you, ma'am. Your Honor, may I publish these, please?
You may. Should these be viewed only by the jurors? And
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's you, right, Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Okay. And just close up of your arm. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And is that your lip?
Yes.
And is this your other arm?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, thank you. I have no other questions of Mr. Olson.
Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Alexander Dorette, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You can put your hand down and be seated. Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Alexander Dorette, D-W-O-R-E-T.
Mr. Dorette, good morning.
Morning.
What do you do? Are you working?
Yes, I work at Audi.
Pardon?
Audi.
Okay. And do you do any trade school or anything like that?
Yes.
Where do you go?
Sheridan Technical College.
Okay. Mr. Dorette, I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that date?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I want to call your attention to the fourth period. Do you remember your fourth period?
Yes.
And Mr. Dorette, do you know where you were during the fourth period?
Yeah, I was at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
Okay. And were you at a particular classroom?
Yeah, I was in English class.
Okay. And was that 1216?
Yes, sir.
And who was your teacher?
Miss Haas.
Okay. And did something happen during the fourth period, Mr. Dorette?
Yes, sir.
Would you please describe to us what happened?
So that day was a regular day, and then during the end of the period, I started hearing loud bangs. But at that moment, I didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. You know, maybe it was the band coming through the hallways, you know, banging their drums or whatever.
Okay.
And then I just remember feeling a sensation on the back of my head, like a hot sensation. and I just realized I was in danger, so I reacted as quick as possible and tried to just get somewhere and cover. So I went to the hard corner of the room.
Okay.
And then while I was sitting there, just trying not to think this is real, thinking it's, fake, and then just not trying to process, what's going on. And then while I'm sitting there, I have a couple of people around me that are just, trying also not to, freak out. And then I remember feeling trickling down the back of my head and onto my chest. And then, I touched the back of my head, and then my hand was all bloody.
And where did you reach with your hand? What part of your head did you reach for?
Just like the middle of the back of my head.
Okay.
So I realized, something's wrong, but I still didn't want to believe that it was, a shooting or anything. So I was trying to stay calm. And then the people next to me were like, "Oh, are you okay? Are you do you feel like you're gonna die or, something like that?" And then I was just sitting there, and then I looked straight ahead of me, and I saw Alex Shackner passed away over his desk, kind of like half of his body. There was like a metal bar on the desk, and half of his body was off the bar, and the other half was like still kind of in his seat. And I saw a pile of blood like forming under him, and I saw his body not spasming, but more like trying to take his like final breaths. And then at that moment, it started getting more real. And then I was just sitting there, trying to stay calm and trying to keep the people around me calm, talking. And then I remember more shots coming in, which I thought were coming through the wall, but later I heard that they were just each came back to shoot in the classroom again.
Okay.
And then I was just sitting there trying to stay calm and collected, and then the police showed up, and they came in the room and they asked, "Oh, is the shooter in here?" And we said no, and then they asked us to put our hands up, so we all put our hands up, and then they told us to walk out of the classroom and pretty much run out of the classroom and don't look back. So we ran out of the classroom, and then a guy, I don't know who, was like, "Oh, are you injured?" And I was. You could see the blood on me, so he was like, "Let's go to the ambulance." So I went to the ambulance, and they started treating me.
Okay. When you said there were, the first time the shots came in, did you see where any of the shots hit?
No.
Okay. How about the second time? Did you see where any of the shots hit the second time?
Yeah, I saw them hitting the wall.
Okay. Do you know how much time between the first time the shots came in and the second time, Mr. Durrett?
I mean, to me it felt like 15 minutes, but I know that now that it wasn't that long.
Okay. Felt like a long time to you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me show you state's exhibits. Besides Alex Shackner and yourself, did you see anyone else that was injured?
Yes, I saw Kashava, but
Is that Kashava Magapuram?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But at the time, I didn't know he was injured.
Okay. Anyone else?
No.
Okay. Let me show you. I've showed these to the defense.
Okay.
State's Exhibit 2S and 2R. Mr. Durrett, you...
Yeah, I remember these.
Okay, you know who that person is?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. And does one of those photographs show what part of the head you were hit?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce 2R and 2S. Okay.
States 2R for identification will be received as states 25. Excuse me. And then 2S for identification will be received as 26.
All right, I'm going to show you 25. And you recognize who that is?
Yes, sir.
Who is it?
That's me.
Okay. And where was this taken? Do you remember?
At North Broward Hospital.
Okay. And show you 26. You know who that is?
Yes,
Who is that?
that's me.
And does that show the area where you were hit?
Yeah.
Where? Could you point to it? And the illustrator, do you know
Yeah.
how to use that?
I don't, but I'll try.
Go ahead, you can do it. Just hit one of the colors.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Yeah, about right there.
Okay, all right. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
State any, excuse me, defense, any questions? No. Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.
That's all we have this
Okay,
morning.
ladies and gentlemen, we are going to break early for lunch today, and I'm going to give you a bit more time because I understand getting out of the building to your cars and then back into the building was not enough time yesterday. So it's 11 o'clock right now. We're going to break for 2 hours. I'm going to ask that you please be back at 1 o'clock. So that we can start the afternoon. I think I'm saying the time right today. Today it's almost 11 o'clock, so we're going to break until 1 o'clock. The sheriff's office will indicate to you exactly the directions of what you need to do, like they did yesterday. It will likely be the same procedure. Please remember not to discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Please remember that if anyone approaches you, you tell them that you're on the jury and that they should not talk to you, and report the matter immediately to me when you return. Other than that, I hope you have a nice few hours of a break, and I'll see you back here at 1 o'clock. Thank you. No. We'll be in recess until 1 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, if everyone would please be quiet so that I can hear.
And Your Honor, this is purposes for the court, for purposes of upcoming objections based on anticipated evidence from the state. And I just wanted to...
Hold on just 1 second. So I said we were in recess for lunch, but then the defense wanted to make an argument. So technically we're not in recess, so if you would like to come back in and sit down, you may do so. If you want to exit, you may do so, but I'm going to have defense just wait a minute until everybody is either seated or has exited. Sorry for the confusion there. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I'm not asking for a ruling. I'm not further arguing any objections already made. I just wanted to make a record because based on anticipated evidence from the state, I think it's important for the court to know the following. The state has thus far admitted 2 different videos pursuant to S-19, subsequent to the testimony of Mr. Ron Lowther. And there was one video that, at the beginning of the video, is entitled Nikolas Cruz Timeline, and that is apparently, it's approximately a 15-minute long video that the jury was shown. And I just wanted the court to be aware of the fact that in that video, the victims are seen being shot by Mr. Cruz on the following number of occasions. Mr. Hoyer twice, Mr. Duque Aguiano twice, Ms. Montalto twice, Ms. Baez once, Mr. Hickson 4 times, Mr. Feist once, Mr. Beagle once, Ms. Pollock 4 times, Ms. Logren 4 times, Mr. Oliver.
I'm sorry, how were you able to make that record from that video?
And I was going to say this at the end. When I'm saying these numbers, I don't mean the number of shots actually in terms of them being hit. I mean scenes of them being shot. So for instance, when the video footage switches from one angle to another, both vantage points show the same incident or the same occurrence. And so when I say, for instance, that Ms. Logren is seen being shot on 4 different occasions, it's because the camera switches and shows the same incident from a different angle.
4 times or 2 times?
4 times, because she was shot on 2 separate occasions in real life, and those 2 separate occasions are shown from 2 different cameras, totaling 4
In
times.
other words, he shot her the first time, then came back and shot her again.
Yes, ma'am.
And it shows him taking 2 passes at that particular victim from 2 different angles, one from the east and one from the west.
Exactly, yes, ma'am. And so that was just, for example, Ms. Logren again. The same with Mr. Oliver 4 times, Mr. Long 4 times, Ms. Guttenberg 3 times, Mr. Borges once, Mr. Lehman twice, Mr. Kavachenko twice. And I'm just making that record because it's going to be important for purposes of cumulative objections going forward. Thank you.
Well, just so that the record is clear, there are different views of cameras. As has been brought out, there's a camera on the east pointing west, there's a camera on the west pointing east, and there's one in the middle pointing west. So there are going to be different advantages from each camera in terms of what they show. And they show additional things as well. So I'm not sure what the record, just so the record is clear in response to what the defense says, there are multiple cameras that do depict the same act, but they show additional matters as well.
All right, we're in recess. Thank you.
Jurors are entering.
All jurors are present in the conference hall.
Okay, you all may be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone had a nice lunch break. We're going to resume with the state's next witness. State, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Kishava Magaforum.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can be seated. And when you're seated, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Kishava Reddy Mangapuram, Mangapuram.
Okay, we are not going to be able to hear you like that, so if we can either have you scoot up into the microphone.
My name is Kishava Reddy Mangapuram, Mangapuram.
Okay. And Mr. Magapuram, are you going to school?
Yes.
Where do you go to school?
University of Central Florida.
And what year are you in?
I'm going to be a sophomore soon.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
And do you remember where you were during the fourth period of that day?
Yes, Miss Haas's class, 1216.
Pardon?
Miss Haas's class.
Okay. And 1216?
Yes.
Okay. And tell us what you remember happening during fourth period on February the 14th.
It was a regular day. During almost the end of the period, we heard loud noises. Wasn't exactly sure what it was, but as everyone did everything, we hid under a table. The way I was seated, I had to get away. There was a metal bar on this side and on this side. So when I turned, I got hit. And during that time, I went under a table. While I was there under the table, I had to just wait, I guess. And a little bit later, I assumed there were shots coming from the other classroom because I saw bullet holes. But I later learned it was actually the second round of shots from the shooter. And then after me and my friend saw those shots, I went to the front of the desk where I saw William Olson. He had a little bit of blood on him, and from there was just waiting.
Okay. So you hear these sounds. You know where the sounds sounded like they were coming from?
Yes, from my door.
From what?
From the door.
Okay. And did you see any shots come in the door?
No.
And when you said you were hit, where were you shot?
Yes.
Where were you shot?
Like the right side of my stomach.
I'm sorry?
The right side of my stomach.
Okay. And then you went and hid behind the table?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay. And did you see anyone else shot?
I saw William Olson get hurt.
I'm sorry?
William Olson get hurt.
William Olson? Okay. And I hope you don't mind taking that off. It might put any pressure on you to take that. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. So you saw William Olson. Did you see anyone else get shot?
Alex Schachter.
Alex Schachter. And where was Alex when you saw him?
We were in a group together, so
basically diagonal from me on his desk. He instantly.
Okay. And anyone else?
No.
How many, did you see shots coming from the door?
No, my back was to the window most of the time.
Did there, so after those first shots came in, what happened after that?
So the first shots came in, I was able to, there was a table attached to the wall near the whiteboard. Me and a friend were underneath. We just waited until we saw shots, more shots there. There was like little bullet holes coming through the wall. At that time, I assumed it was from the other classroom, but later on I learned it was actually since he came back and shot, and I moved towards the front of the teacher's desk at that point.
Okay, and then what happened after that? Did you hear anything else?
Shots kept getting further, they kept going upstairs.
Okay.
There was a lot of dust.
Okay, and then what happened?
After that, it was just waiting until the police came and helped us out.
And I know it's hard to remember. Do you remember how long it took before the police got there?
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay. Kashava, let me show you, John, I've showed these pictures too. Let me show you pictures, photographs. This one's marked 2X. Let me hold that if you like. 2W, 2U, 2V, and 2T. I ask you, Mr. Magaforum, do you recognize those photographs?
Yes.
And who are they photographs of?
Me.
Okay. And where were they taken?
At a hospital.
Okay. Was this after the shooting?
Yes.
And did they illustrate where you were shot?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have them back, please? Your Honor, may I introduce these, please?
Brief sidebar, please.
Okay. The defense objection states 2X for identification is received as states 27. 2W for identification is received as states 28. 2U is received as states 29. 2V as in Victor is received as states 30. And 2T as in Tom is received as 31.
Okay, Mr. Magapore, I'm going to show you states 15. Can you see that?
Yes.
That's you?
Yes.
Okay. And states 27. And is that your right arm?
Yes.
Okay. And states 28. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
And where is that?
My right arm is it.
Okay. And states number 29. What's that show?
Everywhere I got hit almost.
Okay. And is this a close, Stacy's exhibit 30, is this a close-up?
Yes.
Okay. And did they accurately depict your injuries as they existed on February the 14th, 2018?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McAporum. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused. State when you're ready to call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Dara Haas.
Just remain standing to be seen.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You can be seated. And when you're seated, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Okay. My name is Dara Haas. My last name is Haas, H-A, S as in Sam,
Okay.
S as in Sam.
Okay, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Haas. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
Good. So, how are you employed?
I work for Broward County Schools,
Okay, and are you assigned to a specific school?
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
Okay, and where is Marjorie Stoneman Douglas?
It's in Parkland.
Okay, and how long have you worked at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas?
I started there in the fall of 2016, and I'm currently still there.
26 years?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I started in 2016,
Okay,
and I'm still there
Okay.
currently.
And were you in school or were you employed prior to 2016?
I was working at other schools within Broward County.
Okay. How long have you been a teacher?
About 15 years, I believe.
Okay. And what do you presently teach?
English.
I'd like to call your attention to February the 14th, 2018. What were you teaching then?
Yes,
And what were you teaching?
English.
And were you assigned to a particular classroom?
Yes, I was in 1216
And 1216 is located where?
in the 12 building at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
The 1200 building or the freshman building?
Correct.
Okay. And you were in 1216?
Correct.
And that was your classroom?
Yes.
How long prior to February the 14th, 2018, was that your classroom?
It had been my classroom that year and the previous year.
Okay, so approximately 2 years?
Correct.
Okay. So I want to call your attention to that date of February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
What time does school start at Marjorie Stoneman, or did school start at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas back on February the 14th, 2018?
7:40,
Okay, and what time do classes end?
2:40.
All right, and fourth period. Were you teaching fourth period?
Yes.
And what classroom?
And I was teaching fourth period in 1216.
Okay, and what time does your last period start?
I think it was 1:10. I'm not sure.
It's an hour and a half or 90-minute class?
Yes, it's 90 minutes.
Okay. And is it English? It's not specific English class?
It would be English 1
Okay.
with the freshmen.
Okay, all right. So during fourth period, Ms. Haas, tell us what happened.
So in the fourth period class, the students were working. They were working quietly on their assignment. And we heard the pop, 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 the sounds of the gunshots.
Okay.
It happened quick. And my first instinct was it was a drill, so I went to shut the blinds, but the sound, it was so loud. I remember shaking and telling the students to go where they needed to go. It was a drill, and the students were screaming. Students were coming to my desk and screaming and shouting and coming over to any area they could. I turned around quickly, and that's when I saw that it was not a drill. One of the students was injured. He didn't have time to make it out of his desk.
And who was that, Ms. Haas?
That was Alex Schachter.
Okay.
He got injured very quickly. It happened very fast in the classroom. I quickly called 911, and as I called 911, I texted my husband, to call 911, that this was an emergency. The sounds were loud, and they were just a lot of them. The room filled with smoke. It was hazy. The kids were doing their best they could to get to safety in a classroom that has nowhere to go. We just tried our best to follow the direction of the 911 that said to stay quiet and to do our best while help was on the way. It was hazy, and you could smell the sulfur from the guns, and debris was flying across the room, and the students were crying, and so many students had been injured, and all of a sudden, it was quiet. There had been so many gunshots and so many sounds, whether it was sounds in the hallway or shooting in the room, I didn't know. And then all of a sudden it was quiet. We heard a little yelling in the hall, and there was punching at the window on my door where it had shattered, but it didn't break. And terrified, I remember staring at the door and the punching, and when the arm came in, I saw the emblem of the police, and I knew that they had come in, and the team came in and they took the students out, but it was hard for me to leave because I wanted to stay with the students that couldn't go, and the police officer told me to quickly get out and that he would help the students that were still there that had been very injured. It was Elena Petty.
Who? I'm sorry?
Elena Petty.
Elena Petty. Where was Elena?
She was by my desk.
Okay.
How
about Alyssa Alphadeck?
She was on the floor in the classroom, and the police officer quickly helped me out of the classroom, out of the building, and an officer assisted me to the sidewalk where I was met by William Olson, who was covered in blood, and I asked him if he was injured, if it was his blood, and he was in shock and didn't know, and he thought he was injured. We took him to the EMT, but as soon as I got there with him, I prepared to stay with him, but Samantha Fuentes
She wasn't in your class, was she?
She was not in my class, but she had gotten my attention because she was so injured that she needed assistance as well, and I got her to the EMTs and helped other students, and the police then escorted me to the Holmberg corner. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you mentioned Alex Schachter's, you saw him shot, and Elena Petty and Alyssa Alphadeck. How about Keshava Magapuram? Was he in your class?
Yes, he was. I remember Keshava. He was in front of my desk, and I still remember his face because he was injured as well. And he was in there with, there was Justin Colton, there was Justin, Keshava, Genesis, I know William
Genesis Valentin? Is that
yes, okay. She had been injured.
Did you mention William Olson?
William Olson, yes. And also Alex Dorrit.
Dorrit, okay.
Had been injured as well in the classroom.
All right, so did you see the shots first come in your window? No,
it happened so fast.
Okay.
There was debris flying over, whether it was the shots or that, I'm not sure.
Okay. Did there come a time where more shots came in after a short time afterwards?
Yes.
Do you know how much time between the first set of shots and the second set?
I don't. It just all seemed to happen so quick.
Okay. Let me show you, I've showed this photograph to you.
No.
I want to show you State's Exhibit marked 2Y for identification. Do you recognize that person?
Yes, it's Alex Schachter.
Okay, it's Alex Schachter, and I'm going to show you 2Z.
Alyssa Alhadeff.
And 3A.
Elena Petty.
Okay, Your Honor. Yeah, I know for these.
Is there any objection? The states 2Y for identification will be received as states 32. States 2Z for identification will be received as states 33. And states 3A will be received as states 34.
any further questions of Ms. Haas, but if the defense doesn't object, I'll show the photographs to the jury
Oh, later, John?
after she leaves. There's no reason,
Oh,
unless they object to that.
No, sir.
okay. Do you have any questions for this witness? Okay, thank you, ma'am. You're excused. Mr. Sachs, are these photos for the public view or only
No, we're not going to show them
just for
today.
the
Thank you,
jurors
Ms.
and
Haas.
the attorneys? Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
And defense counsel is aware of that, right?
Yes.
No. Okay, folks, can you all see it? That's Alex Schachter. Alyssa Alfadef. And Elena Petty. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. State when you're ready, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Isabel Checker.
Your Honor, we have a sidebar office coming up.
Sure. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to need you to lean in a bit more.
Okay.
And speak as loudly as you can.
Okay.
And please tell me your full name and then spell your last name for the record.
My full name is Isabel Checker. My last name is spelled Chdquer.
Good afternoon, Ms. Checker. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. So, do you go to school?
Yes, I go to UCF in Orlando.
Okay, and what year are you in?
I am a senior, so I graduate soon.
Okay. And did you go to high school somewhere?
Yes, I went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida.
Okay, and how many years did you go before you graduated?
I went all 4 years.
Okay, so I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember where you were during fourth period?
Yes, I was in room 1214, Miss Seamus's History of the Holocaust class.
Okay, let me show you. Can you see that, Ms. Checker? Okay.
Yes, now I can.
Okay. And do you know how to work the,
Do I just use my fingers?
yeah, we just hit a color.
Just wait till the colors
Well, it
come on
comes
the
up.
screen.
Okay.
Now they're up.
Okay. Yes, I see.
Yeah.
Should I circle my class?
Yeah, please. Okay, so that's 12:14, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's your fourth period,
Yes.
and it's Miss Seamus's class, you said Holocaust history?
Yes.
Okay. So during fourth period, Miss Checker, please tell us what happened.
Okay, so that day we had been doing group presentations. So at the very beginning of class, we were finishing those presentations up. And then afterwards, we moved into a computer program called Eyewitness, where we would do, it's like a program where we read about the Holocaust and like history about it. And that day specifically, we were talking about the Olympics that took place. And so we were in the middle of doing work on the computer while also doing like listening to a lecture with Miss Seamus. It was kind of open-ended discussion. And all of a sudden we heard, I think I heard like about 3 or 4 shots. And I immediately recognized what it was. And the whole classroom kind of just went into like flight mode. We went into different corners of the classroom. So I went, I believe, with a couple of other students to the corner that's directly across from the door. But I soon realized that it was in direct view of the window in the door. So I then moved to the corner that's diagonal from the door, which is where about, I think, half the class was, whereas the other half of the class went to the area, the corner next to the door, which was behind the desk. It was like not in view of the door. And so from there, at some point when I got to the corner diagonal from the door, that's when I got behind the filing cabinet that a couple of students had moved. And I think sometime during my movement is when I was grazed twice. I'm not exactly sure when. And then from there, we just kind of hid behind the filing cabinet and waited. And I was around a couple of other students, 2 of which I noticed, well, one of which I noticed was injured almost immediately, and another.
Who was that?
That was Samantha Fuentes. Her face was bleeding, and we were all kind of freaking out a little bit. And then afterwards, another student next to me, that was like, because we were kind of squished in the area, was complaining about a pain in her back, and that was Daniela Menescal, and she ended up also being injured that day.
Who was that?
Daniela Menescal.
Okay.
I don't know how long the time passed, but during it, we were just kind of, I tried calling 911 at one point, but my call never went through. And then while we were waiting for what seemed like a really long time, but again, I don't really know how long it was. I think it was a lot shorter. That was when I looked over, like, to the right of me, which was more where the corner was, since I was a little bit further from the corner.
Just don't worry about that. We'll be
Okay. And I saw Helena, like, I noticed that she had passed away. And then shortly after that, I began to freak out a little bit, but we were all just trying to calm each other down, as other students were realizing too. And then eventually, the police came, and they asked us to put our hands up, and they took the wounded first, but I went to find my friend who was on the corner of the class where the desk was, Miss Seamus's desk. She was on that side of the class.
Right.
And when I got up, that's also when I noticed the other student who had passed away in our class, Nikolas.
When you were saying Helena, you're talking about Helena Ramsey?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And did you see Samantha Grady? Was she in your class too?
Yeah, but I didn't see her. I don't remember seeing her.
Okay. How about Nicholas Garrett?
Yes, I saw him when the police asked us to get up and put our hands up. I turned back, and that's when I saw him.
Okay. And you were wounded?
Yes, I was.
And where were you wounded?
I was grazed on my right foot and on my left arm.
I'm sorry?
My right foot and my left arm.
Thank you.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to show defense counsel. Yeah.
So you want to move them in now, you're not going to ask her about it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Thought I did. Thank you, Ron. Okay, Miss Checker, I want to show you, this is State's Exhibit 3B. Do you recognize that lady?
Yes.
Who is that?
That's me.
And State's Exhibit 3C, what is that?
That's my feet. My feet.
It's your foot?
Yeah.
Okay, is that where you were wounded?
Yes.
Okay. Here's State's Exhibit 3G.
Yes, that's my foot.
That's the foot without the bandage on it?
Yes, correct.
And show you Exhibit 3E.
Yes, that's my left arm.
It's your left arm where you're wounded?
Yes.
And this is your State's Exhibit 3F?
That's my left arm with the bandage.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to introduce these, please.
Okay. Over the defense objection, States 3B will be received as States 35. States 3C, as in Charlie for identification, will be received as 36. States 3E for identification will be received as 37. 3F as in Frank will be received as 38. And 3G as in George will be received as 39.
Who you skip 3G?
3G? D. I didn't see a 3D. G. There's no D. There was no 3D. There was 3B,
There's only 4 photographs.
3C, 3E, 3F, and 3G.
Is that 5 total, John?
Yes.
Okay.
Five with her in the bed.
Right. Yes, sir. Okay.
So just to be clear, there was nothing marked 3D as in David.
No. Judge, can you just give me a comment, please? Just double check. That's correct, Judge.
You said it when you said
Wait a minute. I didn't. Okay. Sorry to keep you waiting. So, just for the jury's benefit here, let me just move this. And I think you said that's you?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And you said you were wounded in your foot?
Yes, that's my right foot.
Is that your right foot? Okay. And here's State's Exhibit number 30.
Yes, that's my foot again.
Okay. And the other one I didn't mention is 39. Okay. And State's Exhibit 37.
Yes, that's my arm.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 38. Does that show where on your arm you're wounded?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Checker. Your Honor, I have no further questions for Ms. Checker.
Any questions on the case? Okay, thank you, Ms. Checker.
Thank you.
State when you're ready, go ahead and
Yes.
call your next witness.
Daniela Minuscule.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and be seated. If you would please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Daniela Menescal, Menescal.
Can you state your name higher?
Good afternoon, Ms. Menescal. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So, do you go to school?
I do.
Where do you go to school?
I go to Boston University.
Okay. And what year are you in?
I'm going to be a senior.
Okay. And where did you go to high school?
I went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas,
And when did you graduate?
2019.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention to February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yep.
What year were you in?
I was a junior.
You were a junior?
Yes.
And do you remember your fourth period on that day, on February the 14th, 2018?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and where was your fourth period?
It was in the 1200 building,
Okay, and what classroom?
1214.
And what class was it?
History of the Holocaust.
Okay, and who was teaching the class?
It was Miss Seamus.
Okay, so did anything happen during the fourth period?
Yes.
Could you tell us what happened?
So after we were done with our class, we kind of finished our work. We were working on our computers, and it was around 2:20 to 21. I was talking to my friend, and we heard loud bangs. So my classmates and I kind of just spread to the room. Some of us went to one corner of the room. Some of us went to the other corner of the room, which was visible to from the door, from the window door.
Right.
I chose to go to the corner of the room that was visible from the window. And so me and my classmates who were there, some of them moved a filing cabinet so we could protect ourselves. And at that point, I did not know what was happening. I thought it was a shooting drill, so I didn't really cover myself too much. I never looked to the door, but I was facing the door. And as I was talking to my friend, telling her, it's fine, this is probably just a drill, I felt a sharp pain in my back. So that made me move towards like the back of a TV that was in front of me. And so when I moved to that place, my friend besides me was kind of like touching my back. So that's when I looked down and I saw that my white pants were full of blood. And so I realized that it was probably not a drill. But since the pain came from behind me, I thought that they were shooting from the outside of the building, since it didn't make sense that I was facing the door and I got hurt in my back. So I kind of just stayed there, looking down. I wasn't really looking up. And yeah, so I did see many of my friends who were wounded, but I couldn't really see towards like the other corner of the room where my other classmates were. And yeah, so basically we waited there for about 15, I guess, 20 minutes. I'm not sure how long it was until the police came, or the SWAT team came, and they asked if they were injured in the classroom. And so they asked for the injured to walk out the classroom first. So when I stood up, that's when I really saw that I was hurt in my leg. And because I saw also that I had a hole in my shirt, so I wasn't sure what it was, but I walked outside. They guided me through the classroom, and then as I walked outside, we walked over two bodies. I couldn't really see their faces, but we walked outside the hallway, and yeah, so they took me to an ambulance after that, and I didn't have my phone in the classroom. It was in the back charging, so I couldn't call my parents while it was happening. So yeah, as soon as I got into the ambulance, one of the nurses gave me her phone to call my parents, and that's when I called them and told them that I was going to the hospital.
To the hospital, okay. You said your friends were wounded. Who was wounded? Did you saw on 12-14?
So I know Isabel Checker was wounded, Samantha Fuentes was wounded, and Samantha Grady was wounded. And two of my classmates were fatally wounded.
Who were they?
They were Nick Dorrit and Helena Ramsey.
Okay. I want to show you these photographs. States Exhibit 3J, 3H, and 3K. I want you to take a look at that. First, 3K, do you recognize who that is?
Yeah.
Who is that?
That's me.
Okay. And States Exhibit 3H, does that show your wound
Yes.
in your leg?
Mm-hmm.
And States Exhibit 3J, does that show your wound in your back?
Yep.
Your Honor, I'd like to offer these exhibits, 3K, 3H, and 3J.
Is there any objection?
Just raise those, ma'am.
Okay. To be received as states 40, 3J will be received as states 41, and 3K for identification will be received as states 42.
I'm going to show you States Exhibit 42. And who is that?
That's me.
That's you in the hospital.
Yes.
And States Exhibit 40. What's that show?
That's my left, my right leg
Okay,
wounded.
that's where you were hit?
Yes.
Okay. And show you States Exhibit 41. What's that show?
That is my wound in my lower back.
Okay, thank you. And they accurately depict the wounds that you received on February the 14th, 2018?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Mansfield.
Any questions from the defense? No. Thank you, Ms. You're excused.
Thank you.
State when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Next witness.
Samantha Grady.
just be standing for this one.
Good afternoon, miss. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and be seated. And if you would lean into the microphone and state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Samantha Grady, Grady.
Okay, Miss Grady, are you going to school?
Yes,
Where do you go to school?
I go to Nova Southeastern University.
And what year are you in?
I am going into my senior year.
And what course of study are you pursuing?
I am a biology major,
Okay.
pre-med.
Okay, did you go to the high school here in Broward County?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go to high school?
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
And when did you graduate?
I graduated in 2019,
Okay.
around May.
I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. You remember that day?
Yes.
Okay. Remember what your fourth period class was?
My last class of the day was Holocaust.
Okay. And who was teaching that class?
Miss Seamus,
And do you remember what classroom you were in? What number classroom?
1214.
Okay. And did something happen during the fourth period class in Miss Seamus's Holocaust class?
Yes, there was a shooting.
Okay. Could you tell us what happened? Do you remember happening?
Yes, so we were doing classwork essentially on the 1936 Olympics, and we were me and my classmates, we were told to do a computer activity. So we sat down. I sat down towards I don't know where I was, but I sat down in the classroom doing that activity with my friends, and we heard I don't know the number, but we heard gunshots essentially while we were doing the activity. I didn't move initially because I was unsure of what I heard. I was unsure if there was any danger. But one of my friends, she tapped my shoulder and said my name, and then that's when I knew it was something that I should probably go and hide, and so I did.
Who tapped on your shoulder?
Her name was Helena Ramsey.
Okay.
Yes. She tapped my shoulder and said, Sam. And then I went to my left side of the classroom where there was a bookshelf. And there were, I believe, 2 filing cabinets that 2 of my classmates who were brave enough to push them out so we could try and hide behind them. I tried to do so as well, but there were people who got there. So I wasn't behind it directly, but I was trying to get as close as I could. But I was leaning against the bookcase. One of my friend Helena, she said, grab a book, maybe it'll help. So we did. And then I thought it was stupid, so I kind of put it back down.
Grab a book to do what?
Sorry?
Grab a book to do what?
We were in a very volatile situation, so we were just trying to protect ourselves. We were trying to,
okay.
yes, but after a while, I'm like, it might put a target on me, so I just put it down back. Okay. And then we were there waiting for something to happen. I don't know when there was any gunshots entering the classroom, but there was, and I ended up being injured as a result of that. So we were waiting. I did at one point call 911 to, just explain the situation when it did get sort of quiet. And then I was on the phone with them. I explained that we were in either the freshman building or the 1214 building or the 1200 building. And they said, stay on the phone with me. And I did for a while until I heard the police come, or we heard voices to my left in the hallway. And then we weren't sure if they were the police or not. We didn't know the situation at the time. But we waited until I seen the SWAT, or I seen black, and then I seen it was the police. In one way or another, they identified themselves, and then somehow they got into the classroom, and they said, who is injured? I raised my hand, and I was escorted out, and they told me to leave out, so then I left.
Where were you wounded?
I was wounded on my right side. There's 2 parts, so one was a ricochet into my chest, and the other one was a scrape in my back.
And did you go to the hospital as a result of that?
I did.
Okay. And did you see anybody, any of your classmates wounded?
I did.
Who did you see wounded?
Samantha Fuentes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody else?
I seen the victims.
Who was that?
I did see Helena Ramsey, and I also see Nick Dorrit.
Okay. And you went directly to the hospital after that?
When I was escorted outside, there was a few things that happened, but I ended up going to the ambulance, and then I went to the hospital, yes.
Okay. I want to show you State's exhibits. (3L). You recognize who that is?
Yes, that is me.
Okay, and does that show your wound?
Yes. There's one up here.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 3M, does that show your wound also?
Yes.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 3N, does that show the wound to your back?
Yes.
Okay. And did these photographs truly accurately depict the wounds that you received on February the 14th, 2018?
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd like to offer these exhibits, please.
Is there any objection?
Yes, ma'am.
Over the defense objection, states 3L for identification will be received as states 43. States 3M as in Mary for identification will be received as states 44. 3N as in Nancy will be received as states 45.
Okay, Ms. Grady, showing you State's Exhibit 43, could you describe for us what that shows?
That is me in the hospital, and it shows my wounds.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 44?
That is also me, and it shows my wounds again.
And what's that on your neck?
I am not sure.
Okay. Is that normally there?
No.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 45?
That is also me and the wound on my right side.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Grady. Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Grady.
Does the defense have any questions for this witness? No. Okay. Thank you, Miss. You're excused.
Samantha, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
That's Samantha, too, so she thought I was talking to her. Samantha Fuentes.
Yes, and from the
Good afternoon. Hi. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and have a seat. And would you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Samantha Fuentes. That's spelled SAMANTHAFUENTES.
Okay, good afternoon, Ms. Fuentes. How are you?
Great.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention. Where did you go to high school?
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School.
And when did you graduate?
2018.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember where you were during fourth period, Ms. Fuentes?
Yes, I was in room 1214 in my Holocaust Studies class.
Okay. And the teacher was?
Miss Seamus, Ivy Seamus.
And could you tell us what happened during fourth period, please?
Yeah. So we were basically wrapping up for the end of the day. There was about, 15, 20 minutes left of class. People were putting away laptops. We had concluded group presentations just regarding like different topics during like World War II. And I was pretty much all done for the day. I was sitting at my desk on my phone, just scrolling through Instagram, getting ready to leave. And I was sitting very close to the door. I actually sat in front of the door that, opens in and out of the classroom. It started as just a couple shots that I heard just behind my head that I could hear from the hallway. Everyone in the room froze. We all sort of stared at each other and froze for a moment because we didn't exactly know what it was. But the sounds sort of continued, and that's kind of when we determined that they were gunshots. And that's when I ran from my desk, which is, like I said, at the front door, all the way to the back of the classroom, which is sort of where the windows are and the back end of the classroom. And at that point, I sort of realized that I messed up because the students had divided themselves into two different groups that I wasn't a part of. So at that point, that's when the shots entered our classroom. That's when the shooter had shot through the window and continued to fire. I was on the ground at the back of the classroom, and I was crawling on my hands and knees to join the rest of my classmates who were sitting in the corner next to a wooden podium, the laptop cart that contained the laptops, and just a few books that people were using to barricade that corner. When I made it to that corner, the shots were still firing. I put myself behind the wooden podium as best as possible. At a moment, while the shots were all going, I had my vision and both my hearing went away briefly, and all I could see behind my eyes were white. So I was very confused and disoriented with exactly like where it was coming from. So unknowingly, I peeped my head past the podium to look at the door. That is where I saw Cruz standing there after he had finished firing. He was standing at the window at the door. And then I moved back into the podium and was facing a few of my classmates, two of which were shot dead right next to me.
Who were they?
Nick Dworet and Helena Ramsey.
Okay.
And they were both horizontal or diagonal from me. In this corner, I had my bodies facing them, looking at them. And at that point, we were all whispering, being very, very quiet. We were, somebody called the 911. We were checking pulses to see if either Nick or Helena were still alive. They weren't. And then that's when I had a good look at myself. It's when I realized that I had holes in my pants. I had blood running from the top of my forehead down to my chest. I had blood in my eyes and all over my face and in my hair. I borrowed one of my friend's phones to look at myself briefly, and what you would have saw would disgust you. We sat there for a very short amount of time, waiting for somebody to come get us. Eventually, it was the SWAT who, or I'm not exactly sure, but it was gentlemen in big black sort of artillery gears. They broke down the door, started escorting us out of the room. They asked if anyone had a weapon. They asked if anyone was injured. I was helped up by a large man. I looked at my dead friends and turned around, and they told me to run out of the building. And they said to look down and not up. And that's where I passed the body of 2 students in the hallway, as well as broken glass, shells. And I ran all the way to that main road, Pine Island, I think. And that's where I was cleaned up by the EMT paramedics on the side of the street.
And were you taken to the hospital?
Yes.
And what wounds did you receive, Ms. Fuentes?
Yes, so I sustained a gunshot wound just above my left knee, and as well as multiple other locations of shrapnel, both my legs, as well as my arm and my face. I also still have shrapnel just behind my right eye that still is there, and I have shrapnel still lodged in all of these parts of my bodies.
And do you have any effects to this day from any of that?
Yes.
What effects do you have?
I don't have the same range of motion or stamina as I once did when I was more able-bodied. I get chronic spasms and pain in my legs, whether it's the weather change or pressure. I can really feel that in my extremities.
Okay. Let me show you now state's exhibits marked. I'm not sure what this, you know, looks like a 3. I picked up the wrong exhibit. I was only kidding. Okay, let me show you state's exhibit. Mark 3Q. And you recognize that?
Yeah, that's my leg.
Okay, and does that accurately describe your wound that you received on February the 14th?
Correct, yeah, that's one of them.
And I'll show you State's Exhibit 3P. Do you recognize that?
Yep, that's me.
And does that show your wound?
It does,
that
yes.
existed on February the 14th, 2018?
Correct, I can confirm that.
Thank you, Ms. Fuentes. At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer State's Exhibit 3Q and 3P.
Is there any objection?
Yes, ma'am.
Section 3P will be received as states 46, and 3Q for identification will be received as states 47.
Ms. Fuentes, as a result of those wounds, did you have any surgeries?
Yes.
How many surgeries did you have?
About 2 or 3, one of which was removing from my face, another which was removing from my leg, as well as, I believe, and the day of, I also had some removed from me as well. So that, I don't know if they're considered surgeries, but I had 3 different operations in which things were removed from me.
Okay. And I'm showing you now, State's Exhibit 47. Does that show the wound to the leg that you were telling us about?
Correct.
And State's Exhibit 46, is that a shot of you in the hospital with the wound?
Correct, yes, that is me.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Fuentes.
Any questions from the defense?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you, Ms. You're excused.
You can-
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think it would be a good time to take our afternoon break. We're going to be in recess for 15 minutes. Please leave your notebooks on your chairs. Please do not discuss the case with each other or anyone else. And we'll be back with you in about 15 minutes.
Okay. Did you go to high school here in Broward County?
I did. I went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
And when did you graduate?
2021.
2021. 2021. Okay. I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. You remember that day?
I do.
What year were you in then?
I was a freshman in high school.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention to that day, Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018, fourth period. Remember where you were, fourth period?
I do. I was in 1215 in Miss Matlock's room.
Okay. I want to show you a diagram, and if you can circle 1215 for us. Can you see that on your screen?
I can.
Okay, and there's a method when it comes up that you can...
You just have to wait for the little colors to appear on the bottom.
Okay.
There it goes. Okay, that's 1215, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, what was in 1215? What class were you taking?
That was my personalization class. It was
What is personalization class?
It's a free period class, so if you have any homework that you need to do or go make up tests, that's when you do it.
Is it like in the old days, like study hall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Study hall.
All right, so what happened during the fourth period?
Well, we got into class in the beginning of the period, and my friend and I had to go take a test, make up a test that we had missed. So we left the classroom and we walked over to the second floor. When we walked up there, we were taking our test just as normal. We finished it, walked back down. We used the
When
restroom.
you went to take the test, whose room did you go to?
We went to Miss Bergen's room in the second floor. I don't know the number.
Okay. And then you came down?
Yeah, we used the restroom first in the second floor because it was the only restroom open. And then we went downstairs back to our classroom. When we got closer to the classroom, we saw Gina sitting outside. And she was on her laptop doing homework. And we just made small talk as we were waiting for someone to open the door.
The door was locked at 12:15?
It was locked, yes.
Okay. And when you're saying Gina, you're talking about Gina Montalto?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And she was just sitting there. We were waiting for the door to open. When someone came and opened the door for us, we found our seats. My friend was sitting in front of me. I was sitting behind her. I was right next to the door. And two of my friends, after a couple minutes, knocked on the door. It was Luke Hoyer and Martin Duque who knocked. And I stood up because I was closest to the door, and I went to go answer it. And as I was reaching for the door handle, that's when the shots went off. And I was very shocked. I didn't really know what it was. It was a very loud noise. And my friend pulled me off from the door. I didn't see what happened to them.
Who was the friend that pulled you off?
Sophia Delia.
Okay.
And she pulled me away from the door, and we went under the desk, under the teacher's desk, because that's what we were instructed to do. She sat under the desk, and I sat right in front of her. And that's when the shots were going off, and that's when we were hearing everything. We were hearing just the shots go off, and it went silent for a little. And that's when we heard someone started screaming. They started asking for help, and if someone could please open the door. We heard more shots, and it went silent. And then the fire alarm went off, and the shots kept going, but they were muffled, so I assumed that they were a little bit higher, maybe on the 3rd floor. And then the fire alarm went off, and that's when the SWAT came and got us. They told us to keep our hands up and walk outside. So we left, and we ran outside and ran to the other side of the school, so across the street.
Okay. And when you said Martin Duque, Aquiano, and Luke Hoyer, they were at the door, you could see them through the glass window?
Yes, I could.
And you couldn't reach the door in time?
No, I couldn't.
Okay. And when, Anna, when you went up to the 2nd floor, was Sophia Diella walking with you?
Sophia Delia was walking with me, yes.
Okay, so you both went up to Miss Virgin's class and then you came down, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's when you saw Gina and went into your classroom?
Yes.
Right? Okay. We're going to, Your Honor, show a video
Okay.
of Anna and Sophia walking up to the 2nd floor and coming down. Is that okay with you, Anna?
Yes.
Okay. Oh. Is that you under the yellow circle?
I'm the one in the jeans, the black jeans right next to her.
Okay.
That's Sophia.
And whose legs are those?
Those are Gina.
And that's when you went into 1215?
Yes.
Okay. And when you went to the, open the door for Luke and Martin, could you see their faces?
I could, yes.
How did they appear?
They were scared. You could tell that they had heard something that they've never heard before, and just in fear.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Any questions from the board? Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
State whenever you're ready.
Yes. Michael Powell.
Remain standing to this.
Good afternoon, sir. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You can be seated. Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Sure. Michael Corbett Powell, Powell.
And just state your name, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Afternoon, Mr. Powell.
Hi.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a teacher at Stoneman Douglas.
Okay, and how long have you taught at Stoneman Douglas?
I'll be going into my 7th year this August, so 6.
Is that your first teaching assignment?
No, I taught for 12 years in Broward County before coming to Stoneman.
Okay, and I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that date?
Yes.
Were you teaching on that day?
Yeah, yes, I teach math, and at the time I had my personalization or study hall class.
Okay.
At the end of the day.
Were you assigned a specific classroom?
Yes.
What classroom was that?
1230.
Okay. I want to show you a kind of a diagram, and it states Exhibit 4H for identification. Do you recognize that schematic?
Yes.
Does that indicate the proper place for where your classroom was, 1230?
Yes.
Okay. You okay? All right, Your Honor, I'd like to offer State's Exhibit 4H.
Okay, 4H for identification will be received as states 48.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Powell, I'm going to put this up on the screen. Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
All right, if you wait, there's going to be a, there it is. Could you just circle where 1230 is?
Sure.
Okay, and that's on the south side of the hall, right?
It is, yes.
Okay, fine. All right, so fourth period, personalization, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what happened during fourth period.
Sure. It was towards the end of the day. We have 90-minute class periods, and it's a study hall class, so I'm not actually teaching. So the kids were just working on their homework assignments and just sort of taking it easy. My desk is on the south side, sort of facing the door, and I was at my desk, and I distinctly remember hearing like a boom, 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 what I recall were like just three noises. And my initial thought was, right prior in January, we had a training by a gentleman right before the kids came back from winter break on an active shooter training, and we were told at the conclusion of that training in January that we would have an unannounced active shooter drill sometime in the second half of the year. So that was my initial thought. Oh, this must be the drill. Through the grapevine rumor mill, I had colleagues who told me from other school sites that sometimes they fire blanks, they being whomever conducts these drills. So that was my thought. I had the kids, not in any super hurry, but I had the kids go towards, I guess it would be the north side of my classroom. So where the door is, if you enter into the classroom, immediately to the left of the door, there's a big cabinet So there's kind of like an alcove or sort of an indentation there. So I had the kids move. We were told during this training in January, just get people out of the line of sight, of the little window at the door. So I had the kids move there. I don't have a good perception of time. It felt like it was going really, really slowly, but anyways, there were more noises, going on. So, at some point it's like, okay, this has to not be a drill. This must be something real going on.
Where did the bangs sound like they were coming from, Mr. Powell?
The initial ones and the subsequent ones, you could definitely tell it felt down and to my right. Like, you could definitely tell it was away, from where I was or from where we were. So yeah, you definitely could tell it was downstairs.
Okay. And then what happened?
So I had my kids, up there. I still needed to check. Right now, at Stoneman, our doors, when you close them, they just lock automatically. That wasn't the case at the time. My door was closed and what I thought was locked, but I needed to, double check it. As I was going to do that, a kid shows up in the window, banging, trying to get, wanting me, to open and get in. I still had to open my door and double check and make sure that it was locked, because it would sometimes, even if it was locked, it would sometimes just blow open. So I was doing that. I let him in, and then as I was letting him in, my door is really close to the bathrooms on the second floor, right across the hall, and there were either three or four girls were coming out of that bathroom door crying. So I got them, into my room too. So I only had 24 kids assigned to me. Somehow I ended up with 29 or 30. In my room. But once I got him in, we were instructed, get everyone out of line of sight. So I did that, turn off all the lights, and then I sat so that I was facing them, and just tried to kind of eyeball. My hope being, if someone were to look in, maybe they could see the back of my head, but that's about all they should be able to see.
Okay.
And then we just kind of sat and waited.
At any time did you hear the fire drill?
Yeah, I'm not sure how far into the whole mess that it happened, but one of the few things I distinctly remember, telling the kids is, we're not going anywhere. Just stay put when it goes. And that was one of the things that was part of that training that I mentioned, is that, if there's, a situation, don't.
Okay, so you felt because of the bangs you weren't going to respond to that fire drill?
Yeah, there was enough noise up to that point where it was clear, something else was going on.
Okay. Did you ever hear what you thought were shots on the second floor?
I'd be exact. I don't know how to say this. Not for sure. The way I would describe it is, since we were on the second, we had the noises underneath us. The alarm, like you mentioned, went off at a certain point. You could also hear above us, you could hear footsteps, from what I'm guessing were, I think the third floor, I'm assuming the third floor, they probably didn't know what was going on, or had less of a, heads up than maybe I did or that we did. So you could hear people, probably starting to evacuate. So it just kind of felt like you could hear repeated shots, but it just kind of felt like it was surrounding us, because it was.
Did you ever feel like you heard any shots above you at any time?
Yeah, and like I said, I think that the safest way for me to say is it just felt like it was all around us.
Okay. And then eventually what happened?
At a certain point, it was actually far later, I eventually crawled back over to my desk to grab my phone so I could text. My folks live down the road in Meadow Run on Holmberg, a few minutes away, so I just asked, hey, have you seen anything? I just texted, like, have you heard anything on the news, or have you heard sirens or anything like that? And they initially texted back like, no, we haven't heard anything. And then like 30 seconds later, they said, yeah, we just heard what sounded like a million, sirens coming your way. So really this whole time I was just trying to, keep my eyeballs on the kids and, try and keep them, quiet and calm. And, they were crying and just trying, maintain some kind of, calm until someone helped us.
Okay, and then the police finally came and evacuated you?
Yeah, it felt like forever. But yeah, eventually we had some knocks at our door. We were told not to open it, for anyone. So, so they had to, they shoot out the window and let themselves in. But yeah, eventually they came in and got us.
Okay. Do you know who was across the hall in 1231 from you?
1231.
Right.
Shauna Wecht is the English teacher so the bathrooms are there's no immediate classroom like right across. If you open my door, there's no classroom right there. It's the bathrooms, but a little bit down and to the right is Shauna Wecht, English teacher.
Okay. On that day, do you know how many classrooms on the second floor were empty?
Yeah, my next door neighbor, Brandy Hermosillo, was on planning, so hers was empty. Cindy Helverson is in the room next to her. They're on the same side of the building as me, or same side of the hallway as me. They were both on planning, and then Shauna Wecht, I know she wasn't there at the time. I think she was also on planning. And then Nicole Blands is the first classroom when you come up the west staircase. I think she was absent that day, so that classroom was also empty.
So four out of the 10 classrooms?
Four empty classrooms.
4 out of the 10 classrooms were empty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mr. Powell, thank you very much. Your Honor, I have no further questions for Mr. Powell.
Can I ask you any questions for this witness?
Actually, there's none now.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. Was there a campus monitor assigned to your floor?
Yes, right where the elevators are, there's typically a monitor there.
Okay, is it changed?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it's been more than 4 years, so it's a little hard to remember. I don't recall it. It was my second year at the school too, so I wasn't super familiar with everyone, but there's generally someone there. I don't know if they went on rotations or not. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Okay, do you remember it being David Taylor?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with him. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you again, Mr. Powell.
Thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thanks.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is the last witness for today. So you're going to have an early afternoon, and we're going to recess for the evening or the afternoon until tomorrow. I am going to remind you what I told you I would remind you about every day, and that is that when we take recesses, you are permitted to separate and go about your personal affairs. During these recesses, you must not discuss the case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence. If anyone attempts to say anything to you or in your presence, tell the person to stop and report the incident immediately. And this includes even your close friends and family members. So when you go home, your loved ones might be very curious if you have to tell them that they have to wait until your jury service has concluded. And then you can talk to them as much as you want or as little as you want. But for now, you may not discuss the case with anyone, even with one another. Please remember that, and please be very vigilant about that issue. Okay? Thank you all very much for your time and attention. We will follow the same procedure tomorrow morning. We'll try to start back right at 9 o'clock, so if you can be here at 8:30 again and meet the sheriff's office as you've been meeting them in the mornings in the parking garage, I would very much appreciate it. Thank you and have a great evening and a safe drive home. currently the jurors have exited. We are also going to follow the same procedure in court, where I would ask everyone to please gather their belongings. And the 4 media representatives who are going to be viewing the evidence from today that was not made accessible to the public, if you all would please just come stand right up here in the front. The cameraman obviously needs to break down their equipment. There's going to be Mr. Abrams from the state, and then Mr. Weeks from the defense. And as soon as the defendant leaves the courtroom, we'll have everyone clear out, and we'll follow the same procedure as yesterday, okay? Thank you. Well, it'll take a minute for you to get it out.
I